uploading your likeness to the internet?
I guess. This is
Hell
obscene.
yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
you're
only
shitting.
Justin's gonna watch it, so it's fine. Alright, sick.
Wait, Discord shows you how long you've been in call now? That's incredibly disrespectful.
What?
The
Where?
T-posing in Cinnamon.
Where does this
There's
show
a,
that?
I'll send. I'll take it. I'll take a snipperoni.
Alright. So, there's a few things on the docket. One.
We already recorded.
What?
Were we already recording?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Don't you worry your little head about it.
Action.
Action. Okay, so notes. Action item 1. Talk about good Pokemon and why. 2. Talk about good item and why. 3. Talk about good move, but probably covered in other 2 sections. Okay, that seems good.
What about like a team comp?
Yeah, well, I was worried that adding an action item 4 would make you say you're leaving. Action item
No,
4.
we can cover this in an hour.
Discuss a team semi in depth and do match on showdown, discussing the whys of using what moves when and such. Okay. Sick. I'm so good at typing, holy shit. Alright. So, easiest thing is just gonna be pull up this. Alright, so these are the top 10 Pokemon. Let's just do them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, sick.
You should make this a touch bigger.
Oh.
Insane to do it there and not in the thing in Google
Oh, there
Sheets.
is just a... Yeah, whatever. I'm also going to bring up... See, this is what I'm talking about. My computer is, like, chugging. Pokemon
It is definitely
type
chugging.
wheel. A wheel's the best way to do it. Trust me.
Yeah, do the third picture. I think it'll really cover it.
Yo, wait, that's fire.
Wait.
That is nonsense. Who made this? Why? What? What is wrong with them?
All right, what is number 1? What makes a Pokemon great? I already forgot actually. Number 1.
Yeah. Well, sort of. I want to just go through the top 10 Pokemon in this format and talk about why they're good. So part of the reason is going to have to do with the typing as well. That's why I wanted to bring this up.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So, all right, great. Roaring Moon. Well,
it bothers me that that's above Fluttermane. But
yeah, but also like, are we gonna be able to explain why Roaring Moon is good without other things? Okay, in Pokemon Battle, whoever fastest goes first. In all circumstances except when Trick Room up. When Trick Room up, whoever slowest go first.
I feel like you skipped way ahead of where we need to be.
Well,
there's four
right.
things that matter for every Pokemon. One is the stats. So that is what we have here in the colored columns. Go from L and just like highlight over.
Yeah.
So the speed stat, some would argue, is the most important, and I don't know how true that is because Regieleki is dogged water, but that's beside the point. But the speed stat where it matters is that determines who goes first. So you look here, Roaring Moon at a speed stat of 119. Like if you go down like the whole way through this list, 119 is probably like top 10. So just on a normal field, under normal circumstances, that base 119 speed stat is going to let it move before everything else. And when it's a simultaneous turn-based strategy game or whatever you want to call Pokemon, being able to do things and know that you're going to be faster than your opponent is a massive advantage.
True.
Roaring Moon, I would also like focusing in on the stats. Like the bulk is pretty decent. You see, really, basically anything that's like 100 or greater is probably like a pretty good baseline of that's going to be a pretty good stat for this Pokemon. So you see, like it's what is that? Special attack is terrible. That's fine, and we'll unpack that later. But that's really its only terrible stat. Everything else you can with enough HP, the defense and the special defense, like it'll live a lot of hits, even like super effective hits. And then its attack stat is obscene, like 139. Are you joking?
Yeah. And that's even before it gets boosted. One thing Justin did want me to go over as well was, or one thing he mentioned not understanding was the different kinds of moves that Pokemon can have. So, just in the stat regards.
Pull up. I said pull up Showdown. I think that's probably the easiest place to show the physical special split. At least that's what I assume you mean. Like, what's a physical move? What's a... Yeah, just pull up Roaring Moon, and we'll just go through its moves.
Don't need to do that. Alright. So,
there's three symbols here. There's the orange symbol in the category column, yeah. There's an orange symbol, there's a blue symbol, and then there's a gray symbol where like Dragon Dance is. Pokemon move, I guess the gray symbol is the easiest. Those are moves that Justin insulted in the Discord earlier. Those are the moves that boost stats or do something to the field or lower opponent's stats or things like that. They're called status moves. You obviously, for most Pokemon, especially a mon like Roaring Moon, that you're going to want to be attacking with it, like you're not going to run a ton of these. But they are obviously important. Protect is a status move and is the best move in the game, period. But yeah, those would be status moves. Protect, Justin, since you claim to not know what this does. It protects you for turn.
And if you tried to use it twice in a row, it's a 1 in 3 chance of happening?
Yeah, 1 in 3, and then if you get 2 in a row, on the third turn it would be 1 in 9. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. So, when you're picking moves for a Pokemon to use, you generally want to go based off of either their stats or abilities, what they're kind of going to be doing. So if you look at Roaring Moon, it's got an absurd attack stat of 139. So that means that it's mostly going to be using physical moves, because if you look at its special attack, which is a 55, that's ass. That's less than half of its attack stat. So any move that is special, like Air Slash, even if the power is twice as much as a physical move, the physical move will do more damage. So when you're going through the category, so all the physical moves that this guy gets, this is a lot of them. And if you go on Showdown, you also, conveniently, there's a usually useless moves section. I love to go through this section, but they're usually useless moves. So you probably... that'll help you in team building. You don't even need to look at that section for a lot of Pokemon.
Yeah, I guess the reason that they are usually useless is they're either very weak, like each move has a set power, so you look at like Takedown, it has here. Takedown is a base 90 move, so it's pretty, like, it's fairly strong. But it's just outclassed by I would assume this gets either Double Edge or Giga Impact or something, where if you're going to want to run Takedown, there's a more or less a simply, strictly better move.
Yeah.
That you're going to want to run over it. That is probably stronger or more accurate or something to that
You can
effect.
see that sort of thing here with Bite and Jaw Lock. So Bite, well, I guess that's not strictly better because it has a flinch chance. But if you're just looking at power and accuracy, Bite is a dark type move that is physical that does 60. Jaw Lock is a physical move that does 80. They both have the same accuracy, so Jaw Lock is just going to be better most of the time. But apparently neither of them ever get run. Jaw Lock shouldn't be in here. I like that move. But like Crunch and Bite are actually the more whatever. But then this is Facade is what you would use over Takedown, I think, by the way, since you mentioned that one. Is that the only normal type? It also gets Body Slam. So then another thing you might want to consider when picking the moves for a Pokemon are the type of the Pokemon, and in some certain circumstances there are, like, Body Press uses defense stat in damage calculation instead of attack. So this 155 that Roaring Moon has, or 139 that Roaring Moon has, wouldn't matter. It would be using its defense, which is 71. So when you're looking at type, whenever you use a move that has the same type as the Pokemon that you're using, it gets a bonus to the damage called a stab bonus, which is same type attack bonus. It is 1.5 times, I believe. That's correct, right? Yeah, because so those moves are going to be even more powerful than they seem on paper when you are not considering the typing. Another thing is the common types that you will be going against, or sort of like if you pick Roaring Moon and you are trying to use Dragon Claw, this is a decent move. It hits all the time, 100% accuracy, power of 80, so pretty significant, and its attack stack is crazy. It's a physical move. It does dragon type damage, so your Pokemon is a dragon type, so this is actually effectively a 120 power move. And you might think, oh, why not just click Dragon Claw every time? Well, there are Pokemon that might resist the dragon type, or fairy types are completely immune to it. So if you're sitting here stuck with your Roaring Moon and all it has is Dragon Claw, if someone pulls out a fairy type, you can do 0 damage to it. Does not matter at all. So that's why you might want to have a variety of different moves on your Pokemon. You can also keep into your thoughts whether or not they can hit one or more Pokemon. For physical, they almost always are single target. There's a few exceptions to that. Like Earthquake. I think Breaking Swipe is also, yeah. So Breaking Swipe also hits both. A lot of the time, they have reduced power for the benefit of being able to hit 2 Pokemon at once. And since we were talking about Protect, if you use a move that is a spread move, is what they're called, it doesn't matter if one of the opponents is protecting, it'll still hit the other opponent. You don't have to specifically pick one of them. So that's a big benefit. If you're considering, oh, this Pokemon might protect or the other might, you can just click the spread move instead, and you're guaranteed to get some damage off that turn unless both Pokemon protect. Earthquake is an example of a spread move that also hits your teammates, so you need to be careful when using things like that. Because they will damage your teammates, and it does the same amount of damage. When you're using a spread move, if there's only one Pokemon on the opposite side of the field, it also gets a small increase in power. I wouldn't really worry about that. The single target moves are always going to be stronger anyway, but it does change whether or not there are 2 Pokemon on the opposite side of the field. So if we were going to make a Roaring Moon set here, one thing that we want to look at is the typing. So we might want a move like Dragon Claw. It's a very consistent move. It always hits. It always does a decent amount of damage. It's fine. Then we can look at its dark type moves. So it gets access to Crunch here, which is the same exact thing as Dragon Claw, but with the dark typing. And it has this added bonus of sometimes lowering the target's defense. So those two moves, very simple to use. They always hit whoever you're going towards, unless they protect. And that's that. So then you might consider, okay, what else do we want to run on here? We could go for a move that is maybe a type that we want to look out for, so
like
dragon
break into a steel type is where I imagine you're going with this.
Yeah.
So a lot of times what you would switch into a Roaring Moon would be, either a fairy type, which you don't really have anything for, or a steel type, which will resist dragon, but it won't resist crunch. And that's where the type chart Elijah pulled up, like, I know it like the back of my hand. Some people don't.
Having this up while you are playing is useful.
Something else that you can do in Showdown, and we can demonstrate this later, if you type /weak and then type the name of a Pokemon, it'll just tell you what types are, like what its type chart looks like. So we can demonstrate that later. It was probably hard to conceptualize right now. But the other thing you would switch into Roaring Moon, since Fairy resists both Dragon and Dark, or it's fully immune to Dragon, would be like a Steel type move that'll let you hit a Fairy type. So Roaring Moon gets Iron Head. So that if you want like a coverage move in this third spot, that is where you would probably consider. I would go Iron Head over Brick Break. Yeah. Most of the time it's stronger, and it hits Fairies, which are going to be a much bigger problem for Roaring Moon than Steels.
Obviously, another thing you have to keep in mind when picking move are all of the different secondary effects. So, for example, Roaring Moon, this is a little bit more complicated, but Roaring Moon has an ability called Photosynthesis, which says this: sunny days, active, or if the booster energy is used, it takes its highest stat, so at base value, that'll be attack, and it multiplies it by 1.3 times. So booster energy is an item that gets consumed as soon as this Pokemon hits the field, as long as the sun isn't up, because then it won't waste the booster energy. So if okay, when Roaring Moon hits the field, booster energy is going to get used up, then you know that your Pokemon has no held item. So a lot of the time people will run Acrobatics on Roaring Moon, because suddenly power doubles if the user has no held item. This move becomes a 100% accurate 110 base power move that is boosted by its attack and also the booster energy and all that. So this becomes way better than it might look if you're just reading the power and accuracy, because 55 is not high at all, but it's really a 110 if you're using it on a booster energy Roaring Moon.
Another move I want to call out, if you scroll down to the U's, you might know where I'm going with this.
Yes.
That it has a very useful secondary effect is U-turn. So there's 3 moves like this in the game. There used to be 2. There's Flip Turn in Water. There's U-turn in Bug, which has probably the widest distribution, I would think. And then there's Volt Switch, an electric move. All 3 of these moves have the benefit of, they're not super strong. Like base 70 is okay. I think Flip Turn's like 60, and then Volt Switch is like 50 or something.
Yeah.
But so none of them are very strong, and this one isn't getting like same type attack boosted by Roaring Moon's type or anything. But the secondary ability has user switches out after damaging the target. So a lot of times you can end up in a situation where it's like, you'll kill something on your opponent's side. They'll put in, like, obviously their next best Pokemon. You're getting a little concerned. You don't want to lose your guys who match up now poorly into this, enemy Pokemon. So what you might be able to do is you can either just hard switch, which is, before, as your move for the turn, you're effectively switching the Pokemon out. Or if you have one of these 3 moves that I'm talking about, like U-turn, you can use them to damage the opponent's Pokemon and switch out. And where that is really good is it allows you to stay kind of on the offensive, keep the pressure on your opponent by being able to attack into them. But you're also pivoting in probably something stronger if you're clicking this move that is going to match better into their team and actually, drive the game forward for you and position you in a way where you can close out the game more effectively.
Yeah. It's also great because Roaring Moon is a particularly fast Pokemon, so 119 base speed is up there in speeds. So you can click this, and if Roaring Moon is the fastest thing on the field, it's not getting hurt at all. And you could pivot in something defensive, like a Steel type, if they have a Fairy that might be targeting your Roaring Moon.
I think it also can be useful when you're slow, because maybe you have a Focus Ashmon in the back that you want to get in, so you want Roaring Moon to be able to hit up or eat up some kind of attack that's going to do 40, 50, 60% to Roaring Moon, but could break your Focus Sash, which is an item that is important to keeping a Pokemon in the back alive, or something similar. You just don't want it to take a super effective move, but you want to get it in. Being able to slow U-turn out also lets you just get a Pokemon in super safely and have the ability to attack before your opponent can respond, or when your opponent has the same time to respond during the next turn cycle.
This image is relevant to this conversation.
Yeah, a lot of times you'll see people will be selectively making their Pokemon slower to make sure that they have the second U-turn. So you end up at a war of this Pokemon isn't very fast. I might as well just make it as slow as possible to make sure I underspeed opposing Pokemon of the same kind.
Yeah. Roaring Moon also does get Tailwind, right? I'm not crazy.
Yeah, so that was the other thing I was going to say. So you can look at this Roaring Moon, and you can, in our format, I think a lot of times you're going to look at it and be like, this is the strongest thing in the format. You can boost your energy, aggro, you can just wipe out opponents. Roaring Moon also, it gets Substitute, it gets Dragon Dance, it gets Tailwind, it obviously gets Protect, pretty much everything else does. So Roaring Moon can do a lot as you can train it to be more defensive, put your EVs, which I would assume you've learned about EVs at some point, but we can unpack that in a second. But you can put your EVs into HP, defense, special defense, and kind of make your Roaring Moon able to eat up a lot more damage and turn it into this more supportive Pokemon that's able to kind of help the rest of your team with its game plan. So Tailwind is, I think, when you're building a team, the number one thing you want is the ability to control your speed. So whether it's a move like Tailwind, which is just a status move that doubles your team's attack stat for the next 4 turns, including the turn that it's used, which you called out earlier in the chat, is a change from Gen 8. But so Tailwind being able to just double your team's speed is crazy, because you can have a pretty middling, call it 80 speed Pokemon. Suddenly it's basically base 160, which is a huge jump, and you're able to execute your game plan before your opponent is able to execute their game plan.
Yeah. So if we wanted to we can make 2 Roaring Moons here. We'll make a pretty offensive one, so we're going to grab Acrobatics, and U-turn is good. So this is a very simple, it doesn't run Protect, so we'll put that on there because we're not we're not crazy people. So Protect is a great move, obviously, because you don't take any damage when you use it. So game plan for this guy, he hits the field, he pops his booster energy, it's going to boost one of his stats, whichever one's highest, and then he can hit you with his same type attack bonus, Crunch, Dragon Claw, or his effectively base 110 power Acrobatics. So if we wanted to train this guy up, we might, this also has suggested on Showdown. It gives you suggested stats spreads, which is pretty useful to have. So we know, okay, we're pretty fast. We want to hit hard. We want to go fast. So they're saying here we should put all the stats into attack and speed. So then we know that here we're always going to be hitting as hard as we can, and we're going to be moving most of the time first. I guess this is level 100.
But don't forget that nature.
Yeah.
So yeah. So once you divvy up your stat points, say you put the extra 4, so you can get one more stat point out of it. If you throw it in HP, your nature is also a way to effectively give yourself a boost in the direction you want. So say, maybe you're running like Tailwind support on this team and you have an offensive Roaring Moon paired with something that's going to make it even faster. You could opt for an Adamant nature, which will increase its attack and then take away from its special attack stat that you're effectively not using at all. So suddenly, take away the plus on the 252. I don't know what it started at.
Also gonna change this to level 50.
Yeah, 50 is probably better. But effectively, it's going to be like a 15 stat point increase, I think.
Yeah.
Or something, something
So
like that.
we go from 191 to 210. And
so 19 stat points is gigantic.
That's
Like
a
that
lot.
is, especially in your speed stat, if you were to make this jolly instead of adamant, like maybe you're not running tailwind support, you want to make sure this Roaring Moon is outspeeding anything your opponent can do. Like you're suddenly, instead of at 180, you're gaining 17 stat points on your speed stat that you don't have to worry about anything that's base 118 or lower outspeeding you. Whereas if you were to, run adamant, like maybe the 118s that are at max speed, the 117s, the 115s, they could outspeed your Roaring. Suddenly, you might be in a worse position than you would have been otherwise. And
Yeah.
so it's just something to consider on every Pokemon, whether what level do you need to outspeed your opponent's team, and that's where I think, kind of tying this back to Draft League specifically, you're going to be able to look at your opponent's team and understand what their speed, call it speed tiers are. So like where their mons are generally laying, and you can know like I'll outspeed anything on the opponent's team if I have 180 EVs in speed and an adamant nature, and I won't have to worry about like being speed crapped by anything.
Yeah.
Whereas if we were playing like a more open format, maybe that's a little more difficult.
Yeah, because you can just look at every single Pokemon and know this is the highest stat they could possibly have on their team, and I want to outspeed that. And another interesting thing with Roaring Moon, which you don't, I wanted to talk about. This is the suggested stat spread, but obviously it's not the only stat spread. You can put them wherever you'd like, and with this unique kind of Pokemon, all of the past Pokemon have photosynthesis, this ability where they boost their stat. So this boosts your highest stat when it enters the field. So if we were, say, going against something extremely fast, or we knew that the opponent was going to have Tailwind and we wanted to outspeed certain Pokemon even when they were under Tailwind, we could say, all right, we just want this Roaring Moon to be as fast as possible. So we can move this up to 188 with the nature and the EVs. We can also decrease its attack stat until it is 187, and then we know for sure the speed stat is what's getting boosted. So instead of 188, this is actually 270 or something along those lines, because speed gets a 1.5 times multiplier. Conversely, if we wanted the attack stat, we were like, we just want this to hit as hard as possible. We don't care when it goes. We have Tailwind. 210 turns into like I don't know. I can't do math. 280. It turns into 280. And then if you were doing the speed version, you could put those extra stats into your defense or your HP, which is effectively defense as well. But you can spread those out wherever you'd like, essentially. So this is a pretty good example of a Roaring Moon set that would be feasible to run. The last portion of this is Terra types, which hopefully you know what that means. When you use it, you get one per game. You can pick any of your Pokemon to Terra, but you can only Terra one per game. And as soon as you use that, your Pokemon becomes whatever type you've Terra'd into. So that's unique defensively for a lot of reasons. So if you are, say, a Roaring Moon who's Dragon Dark, you are 4 times weak against fairies, because Dragon and Dark are both weak to it. So you might say, oh, I want to be ready to take a hit from a fairy type. and you could become a steel type. Because then suddenly, instead of 4 times weak, you actually resist all fairy damage. Instead, you might want to Terra offensively, which Stellar Terra is weird and fake. Never use it; it's bad.
So I think I know where you're going with this. I think if you say Roaring Moon, say your opponent has a lot of psychic types, and you want to make sure that you're killing them with your crunch. If you pick Dark as your Terra type and you Terra type into Dark, you're gonna end up with, instead of that 1.5 time same type attack boost that we talked about, you get a 2 time same type attack bonus. So it's effectively doubling the power of every move you click.
That is a Dark type.
Like it's a ton.
Yeah.
I think
you also
and that's only because Roaring Moon is a Dark type. To be clear, if you picked, I think the other one that you would pick in this set is Flying. That's because you have Acrobatics. So how we talked about Acrobatics being a base 55 move, that once we consume this booster energy, it goes up to 110. If you Terra into a Flying type, which Roaring Moon is not usually, you just get the normal same type attack bonus offensively for that move, and you keep your Dragon Claw and Crunch same type attack bonus.
Yeah.
So effectively, all 3 of the attacking moves you could click here are having their power multiplied by 1.5 times, which is a tremendous asset to have, being able to pick absurd. 3 stabs.
Yeah. So
and defensively, you lose the Dragon and Dark type. So suddenly you go from being weak, 4x weak to Fairy, to being neutral to Fairy. So if your opponent, they're bringing in a Sylveon to click Hyper Voice, like you have a way to not have to switch your Roaring Moon that would normally just be absolutely obliterated by it. You can live, and strike them back with an Acrobatics that they don't resist at all, even though they resist both of your other stabs. So Terra typing is a very powerful move, and I think that's why we elected in this format, to make sure it's open Terra type, because when you're playing like on the ladder blind, like if there's just a surprise Terra type you're not expecting, like you can just lose like immediately, just with the pace of the games and not being able to plan for it in that situation.
It's a very useful asset to have on your team, and something you definitely want to keep in mind when you're making these sets. So this is a really good example of an offensive Roaring Moon set that you might run. Let's see, I think we should probably try to build a supportive Pokemon if we can, because a lot of the offensive Pokemon, whether they are Roaring Moon or they're a special attacker such as Fluttermane is in a similar boat to Roaring Moon, where it just has one insane offensive stat. You can see
it has 2 insane offensive stats, to be clear. It's special attack is obscene at 135, just like the 139 is. Yeah. But its speed stat is inexplicably fast. 135 is for sure the highest you would see in this format.
Iron Bundle is
a fucking good point. I'm so used to nobody runs bundle. Yeah. 135 is just, I don't even know how to put into words how obscene that speed stat
is. This Pokemon is crazy. It also has 2 very good offensive typings. But
its ability is the same. From a support move perspective, it gets something similar to Tailwind called Icy Wind, which is a ice type special move that is very weak. It's an attacking move. But it will, if it connects with your opponents, it'll hit both. Or, both Pokemon on the opposing side. It'll lower their speed stat by 1. So instead of boosting yours, you're lowering theirs. Which, again, just tremendously powerful asset, given how fast Fluttermane is, being able to slow your opponent down, and maybe, your base 100 Mon is going to be able to be the next one that moves.
Yeah. So a lot of these offensive Pokemon do have capabilities to be more supportive, like Fluttermane with an Icy Wind. An example of a Pokemon that is more supportive is Amoonguss. He's a great guy. He's the support. So Amoonguss is great, specifically because it has one move. Well, okay, that's not the only reason it's great. But it has the move Spore, which is a 100% accurate move that makes the target fall asleep. That is insanely valuable guaranteeing everything else that puts Pokemon to sleep either has some condition. It either won't hit all the time. Like Sing is like a 55% accurate move or something like that. Or like Yawn, for example, is another move that causes Pokemon to fall asleep and has 100% accuracy. However, they get one turn after you've used Yawn before they fall asleep. So they can either switch out, which will cause them to never fall asleep in the first place, or they can still get one move or attack off. Amoonguss is also great for many other reasons. Let's look at its stats first. So it's got a 114 HP. So let's see, comparing that to Roaring Moon, who has 105. I mean, this is also an absurd Pokemon, but it's got a good HP stat. It's got a relatively good defensive and special defense stats. And it's extremely slow, which can be an asset or a downside, depending on the situation. But it gets access to the ability Regenerator, which means that every time it leaves the battle, it restores 1/3 of its max HP. So every single time it switches out. So, like that move U-turn we were talking about earlier, in combination with that, you can have so much HP on your Amoonguss. So you can have him out on the field, you can click Spore, maybe he takes 80% of his health, you switch him out into a Pokemon with U-turn, and then that turn, that Pokemon can click U-turn, do some more damage, and suddenly Amoonguss is back at 70 HP. It's fantastic. Another great asset for a Sportmon to have is Redirection. So there are 2? Is it just Rage Powder and Follow Me?
Follow Me and Rage Powder. There might be more niche ones, but those are the more widely distributed ones.
So there are 2 redirection moves, which means that since this is doubles, this would never apply in the main game unless you're doing a double battle, so you probably don't even know it exists. But this means that when your opponents attack, if they're using a single target move, they will target Amoonguss. So that's great if you have a Pokemon next to this, which might be very offensive, but is pretty frail. That way, you can protect that other Pokemon. Amoonguss will take all the damage. It might be also great next to Roaring Moon, because then you don't even have to tear it. So you bring Roaring Moon out, it's a Dragon Dark type. Maybe they have a Fairy type out. You click Rage Powder, and that Fairy type attack that might have one-shot your Roaring Moon is suddenly going into a Amoonguss, which resists the Fairy type attack because it is a poison type. So the other redirection move, Follow Me, is exactly the same as this, except there is one caveat with both Spore and Rage Powder, which is that grass types are unaffected by either of these. So if your opponent has a grass type, they don't care. If your opponent terras into a grass type, they don't care. That's one downside to those 2 moves. Follow Me does not have that problem, but it's not on very many Pokemon. Another thing that a support Pokemon might do is sort of manipulate your opponent's Pokemon. So it might... another example is Clear Smog. It might be able to get rid of all the boosts that your opponent has built up. So if they have used a move that, say, Swords Dance, boosts your attack by 2 stages, if Amoonguss uses Clear Smog on that Pokemon, it's set back to 0. This can also... I'm not wrong in saying this, right? If your speed is lowered, you could use it on your own Pokemon.
Yeah.
You set them to 50, so it will affect anything.
Can we get the Pollen Puff? That's like the actual 3rd best move.
Yeah, you're right. I just saw this one first. Pollen Puff is another thing that healing is another thing supports might be doing on your team. So You want to talk about Pollen Puff?
Yeah, so Pollen Puff is actually one of the only moves in the game, I think, that if you target your opponent versus targeting your teammate, it does different thing, which is super rare. Pollen Puff, if say your Moongus ends up unfortunately being your last Pokemon alive, like Pollen Puff gives it a way to at least do some amount of damage. Like, it's not a super high special attack stat, it doesn't even get stab off the bug type move being a grass and poison type, but it's a way to just like chunk your opponent if you aim it at one of them. If you aim it at your teammate, so say Roaring Moon is chilling next to you, it's taken 40% off of some attack it got from an opponent earlier. You can sit there and you can click Pollen Puff on your Moongus, and like the description on the screen says, it says, if the target is an ally, you heal 50% of its max HP. Suddenly your Roaring Moon is back up to full HP at the cost of one move from your Amoonguss, where you might not even have had something better to click. So just a very crazy move that they gave it to this already unkillable Pokemon. It turns its teammates into also unkillable Pokemon between Rage Powdering or healing them up. Just absolutely criminal.
Yeah. To be honest, there's not a lot else you would run on Amoonguss. If you want to get freaky with it and surprise your opponent, there are a lot of other things here. So a more offensive move it gets is Sludge Bomb, 90%.
I feel like most of the ones
whatever.
I see, most of the ones I see are Spore, Rage, Puff, and then Sludge Bomb. Because Sludge Bomb,
Yeah.
it gets the bonus. It hits like a Whimsicott super effectively. So I find Sludge Bomb to be quite good on Amoonguss, just as a way to do like actual damage. Because you don't really want to click Pollen Puff into your opponent if you can avoid it, because it's pretty bad. I think Foul Play is
Foul
another
Play is
interesting
another one.
one that can be seen. So Foul Play is one of probably at least of usable moves, like one of 4 or 5 I can think of off the top of my head, that the user stats literally do not matter at all. So it is technically a physical move, which you would never use on a Mungus because it doesn't attack physically ever. But Foul Play uses the target's attack stat. So you're not getting stab on it or anything unless you tear into a dark type. But if you're staring down, maybe like a Roaring Moon that's teared into a flying type and had a booster energy go off to boost its attack stat, suddenly this Foul Play is doing like 60% to a Roaring Moon. And to have your support able to sit there and do, 60% to one of the strongest Pokemon on your opponent's team is incredibly, incredibly powerful. Because especially for a move like Foul Play, like you didn't have to do any investment whatsoever into a Moonguss's attack stat to make it do damage. Like it is solely based on what your opponent does, which again, just very, very powerful. It also provides dark coverage technically if you're staring down like a Farigiraf or something, some Psychic type or Ghost type Pokemon. You're able to do super effective damage there as well.
Yeah. Let's see. Who else is towards the top here? Anyone worth talking about? So Arcanine is also a unique case where it could be built extremely offensively or more of a support Pokemon. It has the ability Intimidate, which is a very valuable move because whenever it hits the field, both of your opponents have their attack stat lowered by 1. So just Arcanine existing is already causing your opponents to do less damage if they are attacking with physical moves. Iron Hands is another Pokemon that is up here. He's great because very bulky, hits hard. It has a 140 attack stat, even higher than Roaring Moon's. It's very bulky, has good defense, and okay special defense that you can make much higher. We can talk about items in a little bit. It also gets access to the move Fake Out, which I know is a move that Justin specifically complained about. Let me just pull up Fake Out. Fake Out, you can only use it on the first turn the Pokemon is out. But what it does... Oh, Hands was right there. Oh well. Is it does a tiny little bit of chip damage, but it will 100% of the time cause your opponent to flinch. So Flinching means that's all they'll do for the turn. They'll flinch. They don't get to do their attacks, any status moves, nothing. So it's only a 40 power move, so it does very little. You'll often see Fake Out do like 2 to 3% of the opponent's health. So it's not for offense, but it causes them to flinch, which means they lose a whole turn there on whichever Pokemon you're clicking this on. But it also only works on your first turn out, so again, with Pokemon that can click a move like U-Turn, it's very useful because you can swap your guy out with Fake Out, bring him back in with U-Turn, use it again. I guess
Indeedee... weather, terrain,
I
guess is another one. Weather you either one's fine.
Indeedee is another Pokemon that is a very supportive Pokemon. It is useful because it has the ability Psychic Surge, which means as soon as it hits the field, it will summon Psychic Terrain. There are 4 different terrains. Psychic is the only one you'll probably see in this format. It's possible the others will pop up. It's unlikely.
Well, Pinkerton is legal. I think somebody could very well do like Brian Hansen and Pinkerton.
That's true.
That's electric terrain. Grassy terrain, I think you will not see at all. And Misty terrain, I haven't seen.
Misty terrain is a fake. But Psychic Terrain is really nice because one thing we haven't actually talked about with moves is priority. So some moves you will see have...
Bring Fake Out back up.
Oh, yeah. You're right. That's a great point. Fake Out. Some moves you will see in this description have an increase in priority, which means that they're... I mean, it only says hits first on the description in Showdown. You can look more in depth. There's different levels of priority. But having priority means that your move will go off first regardless of the speed. If it has the highest priority on the field. So Fake Out's great because it is always going to go first. Unless your opponent is also clicking Fake Out and has a faster Pokemon.
I think it's worth getting into the details on priority, at least as far as how the levels work.
Okay.
So each move has priority levels, I think ranging from +6 to -6. Most of the moves that we've talked about, they're 0. They're neutral. Whereas you look at a move like, I think Roar, which is a status move that forces the opponent you target with it to switch out, that's like -6. So it's pretty much like always going last.
Apparently, they go down to -7.
The +5, that's like Protect. Nothing is ever moving before Protect, ever. I think it's literally the only move other than like the other types of protection moves, which would be up at that +5 range. But the moves like Rage Powder, Fake Out, I think they're around like +3. Ish. Oh, I guess there's stuff on the screen. Helping Hand is technically before Fake Out, or before Protect. Did not know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Fake Out you can see is like +3. So if someone clicks Protect, you're not gonna be able to fake them out, even though Fake Out has priority, because Protect will go off before Fake Out. If 2 Pokemon click Fake Out at the same time on opposing sides of the field or on the same side of the field, that's still decided by the speed stat. So kind of the turn order is always going to follow these stages down the line, and whenever 2 people within the same stage move, that tie is broken by speed. If their speed stats are the same, it's a speed tie. It's literally a 50-50 coin flip chance of who moves first. I think the other ones, like a lot of the priority moves you'll see are like Quick Attack or Jet Punch from Palafin. Those are at +1. So like Fake Out will always stop those kinds of things from happening, but they will still move before. Or Sucker Punch is one that you'll probably see a lot from like a King Gambit. Those are all moves. Some of these have downsides, which we're not going to get into. You can read them for yourself, but they will always move before other moves that are at that, stage 0, which is typically where all of the moves that we're going to use are going to be.
There is another exception that's worth bringing up because are there prankster Pokemon in the draft?
Yeah, Murkrow, I know is one.
Oh, yeah, right. Murkrow
I don't
was a
think there's
menace in the
Wim,
beginning.
but I think it's just Murkrow.
Okay.
At least it's the most good ones.
Well, when Murkrow gets drafted, you'll eventually face against it, and you'll need to know this. Prankster is a ability that causes all of your non-attacking moves, all those status moves, such as Helping Hand is an example of a status move. You don't need to help that out. But any status move, you might click Sunny Day, for example, to change the weather or something. Iron Hands here has Iron Defense that raises its defense by 2. So any status move, ones with the little gray symbol here, will get an increase in priority. Taunt is another big one that Roaring Moon actually does get access to. It doesn't get Prankster, but Taunt causes your opponents to be unable to use status moves. So if you have a Prankstermon and you click Taunt onto an opponent, they won't be able to use any of their status moves for 3 turns? I don't know.
I think it's 4.
Some amount of turns.
It's 4. It's 1 plus 3, I think.
Okay. So that's a unique case where that's a really good ability, and that's why you might see a Pokemon cost more than it might seem based on stats with Murkrow. We got into the conversation about priority because of Psychic Terrain. So Psychic Terrain blocks all priority moves from being used on the opposite side of the field against any Pokemon that is on the ground. This includes...
I wondered if you were going to unpack ground or not, but yes, you have to be grounded to be affected by terrain, which I forget literally all the time.
Which includes Pokemon that might appear to be floating. If they do not have the ability to levitate, they're on the ground. It doesn't matter if it looks like they're floating or if they're like Roaring Moon.
Flying types aren't. So if you tear Roaring Moon, even though if it's floating there just as a Dragon Dark type, it's not on the ground. If it tears into flying, suddenly it's off the ground.
Yeah.
If it's holding an air balloon, it's off the ground, which you probably won't see, but you could.
So there are ways to avoid this, but any grounded Pokemon will be protected from your opponent's priority moves completely. Which is very useful for NDD because, it's very useful for your team because then you know that if your Pokemon is faster, it's going to be going first. They can't be hit by your opponent's priority moves, which normally could outweigh the speed there. NDD is also great because it gets access to the move Trick Room, which is very similar to Tailwind in a lot of ways. It is the other big speed control move that gets used often in VGC. It does not exactly the opposite, but kind of. It makes all of your speeds essentially reversed. So your slowest Pokemon will be going first, the fastest will be going last. Trick Room does have the caveat of it will always go last. It's one of those few moves that has a negative priority of...
I think it's 6 if I had to guess.
Nope, it's 7.
It's lower than 4? That's surprising.
That makes sense because you can Dragon Tail out people who are Trick Rooming. But it's one of the few moves that has a negative priority, so it's always going to go last. But after that turn, speed order is completely reversed. So if you have a bunch of slow Pokemon, like Iron Hands here, who has a base stat of 50, these are all level 100, so it's kind of fucking up the right-hand numbers based on Roaring Moon. But if you're just looking at their base stats, he has a base stat speed of 50, which is relatively slow. NDD's is 85, which is kind of middling, bordering on slow. So you might want to have an NDD out with your Iron Hands, so you can pull them out. Maybe they'll protect on the first turn with Iron Hands while you're setting up Trick Room with NDD, and then it can support your team in that way. It has speed control. It also, like Amoonguss, has access to redirection in Follow Me. This is a great move because it isn't affected by grass types like Rage Powder is. I mean, Rage Powder is still fantastic, but it's even one up above that. It has access to a lot of different status moves. So a lot of the supporting Pokemon you see end up using a lot more status moves because these are kind of the support moves of the game. So NDD has access to Light Screen and Reflect here, which both of them have the damage that you take on your side of the field for 5 turns from a certain type. So Light Screen affects special attacks, Reflect affects physical attacks.
They're basically Tailwind except for defense, special defense rather than speed. It's kind of the easiest way to think about it.
Yeah. NDD also does get access to Helping Hand, doesn't it? Yeah. Usually useless.
The set for Showdown's a singles platform, so some of the good moves are usually useless, but they're usually like status moves. So NDD's set, in my opinion, kind of builds itself. Like it's pretty much always going to run Trick Room, Follow Me, then Helping Hand. Helping Hand, I don't actually know the math. Is it doubles? 1.5s, whatever your opponent clicks that turn. So if you have a move that typically is going to do 75%, so maybe your Roaring Moon does 75% with a Dragon Claw to a defensive Amoonguss, which is not true, but just hypothetically assuming it does. You can click Helping Hand with your NDD. Suddenly that 75% is going all the way up to 115%. I don't remember. That's not the right math, but you get my point. It's guaranteeing the kill that you typically would not have gotten otherwise. So Helping Hand can be very, very powerful in just... NDD's not doing anything itself, but it can make sure your team is still confirming kills at the same time. The attacking move, it's going to run most of the time, unless you're in a terrain war, is Expanding Force.
Oh, true. It doesn't get that.
Oh, NDD Male gets Expanding Force. Yeah. That's embarrassing.
It's going to be Psychic.
Yeah.
I can't spell, but it's going to be Psychic. Psychic or, I mean, it does get Shadow Ball, doesn't it? But I think that's less used.
You're probably running Psychic most of the time, just getting the stab off of it. I guess because I flubbed there a second ago, NDD Male is more or less a very similar Pokemon. It has very similar move distribution, but it has more offensive stats. So it still gets like Trick Room. I think it still gets some amount of the support moves that we talked about. But more importantly, it gets Expanding Force. So when you set up that Psychic terrain, Expanding Force gets powered because it's a Psychic type move. And this move in Psychic terrain hits both of your opponents. So it's a 120 base power move that's hitting both opponents, which you really do not see spread moves being that powerful that often. But NDD,
if NDD is using it, there's also even more multipliers. So you're on Psychic Terrain, which causes the move to deal more damage and hit both people. Is this taking into account the fact that Psychic Terrain, you'll just do more damage with Psychic moves? I don't know.
Probably not.
It also gets its stab bonus. So there's million multipliers on top of this. You could Terra into Psychic, get even more multipliers. It's using its special attack stat, which is a 105, which is pretty good. Okay. So they do have just completely different stats. So you can see here, this is more offensive, this is more defensive. It puts its 105 in special defense instead of attack.
Yeah, so on our draft board, these are actually separate, even though technically they have the same Pokedex number. Just because they're substantially two different Pokemon. Like, NDD Female was supposed to never get Trick Room. They accidentally gave it Trick Room, which is hilarious and caused a whole problem. But NDD Male was supposed to be the only one with Trick Room. So they were, for all intents and purposes, they should be thought of as totally distinct mons, even though they do similar roles.
Yep. I think that... Oh, weather. Right. We wanted to talk about weather.
Yeah, weather, I think all three of them can be pretty functional in this format. You can get sun with Torkoal, you can get rain with Pelipper. I don't think Politoed is in this. I think
No.
it's just Pelipper.
Just Pelipper.
And then Sand comes from Tyranitar. You'll see usually the weather setters are bad. Torkoal has its place and can be powerful on like a Trick Room team or something. Pelipper just is bad, in my opinion, most of the time. It's like, and Politoed is also bad, but all the rain setters are pretty bad except Kyogre.
Yeah.
Tyranitar is the one exception. This mon is crazy. For a little bit of perspective, all of the mons on Elijah's screen, I think Amoonguss is the latest one released, and that's from whenever Black and White came out, like 2011-ish. I think is about when Black and White came out. All the other ones are even more recent than that. Tyranitar is from 2003, 2004, whenever Johto came out. So this mon, the fact that it has not been power crept, and it's starting to show its age a little bit, but the fact that it is still even on our list and a highly ranked Pokemon is insane, given how old it is. Tyranitar 1, the attack stat 134, that was basically unheard of back in when we were literal children. Defenses are all super good, base 100 across the board with the extra 10 in defense. Special attack is okay if you want to catch somebody off guard with a special move, and then the speed is pretty bad. But what it does, it has the ability Sandstream, that when it comes into play, it sets up Sand for 5 turns. So Sand, part of what it does is ships any non-rock, ground, or steel type by 6% at the end of every turn. So if your opponent has a Focus Sash, that breaks the sash. Incredible utility just the damage alone. The other thing that it does is it boosts all rock types special defense by 1.5 times. So that, base 100 Spadef we were just looking at suddenly is basically base 150, which is obscene. Like he is so hard to take down. The typing isn't great between Rock and Dark, a lot of weaknesses, but it kind of makes up for it by being this massively tanky Pokemon that also then claps back at you with 134 base power rock moves, which is basically unresisted, which is crazy. There's also Pokemon that take advantage of the weather with other abilities. So I think Excadrill is in this format, I think. Regardless, we can show Excadrill because there's got to be some other Sand Rushers. This has the ability Sand Rush, which you basically think of Tailwind doubling speed. Excadrill speed stat is doubled in the sand. And then if you had Tailwind up, it would be 4x. So you turn this 88 speed Mon with 135 attack into a 176 speed Mon with obscene attack. And it can just, again, hit super hard, be faster than everything, and all you had to do was put it out next to Tyranitar.
Yeah.
All of the weathers have an ability like that. Chlorophyll comes from fire types, where their speed is doubled. Swift Swim for water types. Slush Rush for hail, or snow. I guess hail doesn't exist anymore. No one's gonna run snow. That is the worst one by far.
Says you.
All right, if you run snow,
Isn't the bomb snow in our?
It is, and so Beartick, I guess, probably isn't legal.
Is Beartick the best attacker?
It's the first one I think of, other than Alolan Sandslash. Those are the only Slush Rushers off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, weather, it can kind of turn into this game where like you are playing your own game, more or less, where you are trying to get the weather up and get your abusers out. And if your opponent doesn't have weather control, which you can get even if you don't have a Tyranitar type Pokemon that sets it on entry, you can still run like Sandstorm or Sunny Day or Rain Dance on, say, like a Whimsicott is the only one I can think of that gets a lot of them.
surely gets Sunny Day. Surely.
Yeah, sure.
It does. Fuck!
Yeah, but
there are plenty of Pokemon that get access to Sunny Day and Rain Dance in this draft.
But for the most part, if your opponent doesn't have a way to answer your weather, you're just playing by your own rules, where your Pokemon are faster, chipping your opponent's Pokemon each turn by 6%. Like, it's just a very powerful thing to have at your disposal when you have weather, and it just builds its own synergies, more or less, so you don't even need to just click Rock Slide.
The setters are all great because it's just whenever they come in.
So you can switch them out, and then if your opponent, so say it's a Tyranitar versus a Torkoal, The slower one, the Torkoal, will get its sun up. Then you can switch Tyranitar out and then switch it back in, and then it'll overwrite the sun if you have survived that long, because it gave 2 turns to a Torkoal, but that's beside the point.
Yeah. Where's my docket? Oh, items.
You really cover a lot of items, yeah.
Yeah, items was the one thing I wanted to discuss a lot more. So let's see if I can find.
I don't even know what the best way to do items.
Most common.
I was looking at Picolytics.
VGC items. I mean, look, honestly, just watch this video. There you go. The super good ones are going to be all the choice items. So there's a choice band, choice scarf, and choice specs. You can see them right here. Oh, wait, I can just look here. This is most used. I mean, it is on this Pokemon, but still. So the choice items all multiply whatever stat they affect by 1.5. But they make it so that Pokemon can only click the first move it uses. That's it. Until it switches out. So that's pretty self-explanatory. They increase your damage or speed. Assault Vest is great. It increases your special defense by 1.5 times, but you can't use any stats moves. So that might be great for, like, Tyranitar, for example, could run an Assault Vest, run 4 different attacking moves, and suddenly this base 100 special defense that we were talking about is multiplied by the sand 1.5 times and another 1.5 times by the Assault Vest. So it has an insane special defense stat. Some other notable ones are Focus Sash. It's arguably one of the best items in the game. It means that if you are at full HP, you can't be knocked out by one hit. It's very fantastic. It is often used on very offensive, fast Pokemon that are very frail. So it ensures that you'll get that second turn unless you're doubled up into.
So your Focus Sash, it gets consumed whenever you're not at full HP. So that's why earlier I've talked about like Fake Out being a way to break Focus Sash, the Sand from Tyranitar being a way to break Focus Sash. It basically just, if you know, and because we're playing Open Team Sheet, you'll know which of your opponent's Pokemon, if any, have a Focus Sash. You know, like, what your game is in order to ensure that, you have to break that at some point. Because sometimes if you can't break it and they're guaranteed to get 2 moves off, like, you will just lose. Because the mons that carry Focus Sash are so strong normally that they will, if left unattended, just take over the game completely. Like a Flutter Mane, I think, would be a typical one that runs a Focus Sash in this format.
There are lots of items. You can look on Showdown. It gives a description for all of them. Some of them boost attacks. Some of them give you extra health. Like Citrus Berry is commonly run a lot of the time because once you get to 1/3 health, you'll restore some health back. But there's a lot of items. The only 2 that I specifically want to call out, other than Focus Sash and the choices, are Covert Cloak, which says here the holder is not affected by secondary effects. So this is a great item specifically if you see that your opponent might be running a lot of things. So Fake Out, its secondary effect is that you flinch. So if you're wearing a Covert Cloak, your opponent essentially can't use Fake Out into you. It'll still deal that little tiny bit of chip damage, so you'll still take some amount, but you won't get flinched, so you don't care at all about it. And the other one is Safety Goggles, which makes you immune to all powder moves and from the Sandstorm or Hail, so you'll ignore that little chip damage. And Amoonguss won't be able to Spore you or Rage Powder you. Those are the 2 that I think are like kind of sneaky if you don't know what they do, but they can be very good depending on your opponent's team.
Elijah, I just sent you a link to a website. I put it in the draft resources tab of our little spreadsheet. But if you ever can't figure out what item to put on a mon, the Picolytics is a pretty good way that it shows, or maybe you draft a mon, you don't know exactly what you want to do with it. You can see like common moves. Teammates aren't really super applicable, but like Tyranitar, you can see Rock Slide, Knock Off, Protect are almost always run, and then you kind of have your own choice of a fourth move. Items are down there, so you can see Clear Amulet, which I don't think we discussed, but that prevents its stats from getting lowered. So we talked about Intimidate earlier. Like Clear Amulet will stop any Intimidate shenanigans from going off. You can see the abilities people usually pick, which in this case it's pretty much always Sand Screen.
You take a nerve on your Tyranitar and then you're talking to.
Yeah. And then you can see even like common EV spreads. So a lot of these, like, I'm sure this has 44 defense and the rest special defense because it guarantees lives something important, which might not be super applicable to our specific format, but at least like it's a guide of, this is what I can do with it. Downside, this is not for Reg B. It only has H and I for some reason. I don't know why it wouldn't.
Well, I think Showdown also only has H and I.
Yeah, you can get down to C, but it doesn't have Reg B on here, so some of this stuff might not be super applicable. But at the very least, like it can serve as some kind of resource for you to get specifically VGC type stats.
Yeah. And if you are trying to do your EVs, don't be afraid to use the recommended in Showdown. Slap 252 in 2 different stats and 4 in HP. That's not going to be optimal all of the times, but it is good enough for a lot of different Pokemon that you'll be drafting here. But yeah, Picolytics is
another
great.
thing that I had linked on the first page of that Draft League tab is a damage calculator. So if you're ever curious, like maybe you've taken Roaring Moon and your opponent has a Tyranitar and you're going to put Earthquake on it to try and catch the Tyranitar, like you can put within the damage calculator the fact that you have a Roaring Moon, they have a Tyranitar, and like what attack stat do I need to guarantee? Maybe a 2-hit KO or something. A damage calculator is incredibly overwhelming to use the first couple times. Yeah. It is an absolutely miserable app. But if you want to really get into the details of team building and countering your opponent, like that's absolutely the best place to start because you know exactly how much stuff is going to do. Or maybe you're in a battle and you've done 40% of something and you're like, well, what does that mean? Like how much, EVs does it have to have consumed? Or, I hit this for 30%, but I have a different move that might be better. Like, is that going to get the kill? Like, it just gives you a lot more options to, like, understand the math behind what's going on and give you the path forward that you need to win your games.
Yep. So, yeah, I think that is a pretty good overview of everything you might need to know if you are a noob like Justin. What a noob. It's 7:30 now. Do you have time to quickly go over a team? If not, I'll just do it.
Yeah, what I think we should do, I pulled a team. Why don't you and I just play each other?
Okay.
And then we can kind of talk through it from your perspective. I can send you a Reg B team if you want, so it's at least mons that people typically see. Do you have a mon that you really want to use? There's a Garganackle team.
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay,
give me the Garg.
Yeah, I'll give you this one. But does this have a paste? Oh, it does have a paste. Perfect. Yeah, this is going to make you want to die. You can just copy that into Showdown. Then we can kind of talk through high level what his team is doing. And then we'll queue into a game, and then we can kind of just talk through it from your perspective, and I'll click moves and not just be a counter teaming loser.
Hell yeah. One thing to keep in mind with these is obviously these are using the 6 Pokemon that they thought were best in this format. Do I have to click a format?
Just import from text. You don't need a format.
Okay. These are the 6 best Pokemon they thought to use here. You will not be getting the 6 best Pokemon. You will be... Why did none of the moves?
One second. Let me just send you the paste link, and then it might copy better. It's probably just Discord. screwed up playing DMV.
Can't you just use the link now?
I don't know.
I thought they fixed this.
I'm a dirty net decker, but
Pokey paste.
that's upload 2.
Oh.
I think if you go to import from text from URL,
and you
and
just put the URL.
You're right.
All right, excellent.
Yeah.
So looking at this team, so we've got Iron Hands, who we talked about. He has maxed attack and HP here. He is using the assault vest, so that'll boost his special defense. So he's going to be... This 68 suddenly turns into 89 with the 4 EVs and levels, and then gets multiplied, so it's like 130 or something, which is way better. You have crazy attack and HP stats, so he's going to be a very bulky attacker. He's got fake out to flinch people. Arcanine here is one of the way more supportive sets, so it has Intimidate. It'll lower your opponent's attacks. It has Will-O-Wisp, which we didn't actually talk about statuses, but just Google them. You'll figure it out. Will-O-Wisp is a move that is 85% accurate. It used to be lower, by the way, but...
Aaron Cybertron's
yeah, someone missed it like 4 times in a Worlds match, so they raised it. If Will-O-Wisp connects, it will burn your opponent. If your Pokemon is burned, its attack stat is essentially halved. It has Snarl, which is another nice supportive move. It'll hit both of the enemies and will always, when it hits, 95% of the time, lower their special attack by 1. So it's also got...
So I guess at a macro level, what this Arcanine is doing is it's coming in, it's intimidating things. So it's cutting people's attack in taking a third off of what they would normally do from an attack. And then, if say it's a very special attacker heavy team, it can also click Snarl and neutralize the damage from that end. So it's just really a way to kind of raise the bulk of your entire team, just in terms of cutting off the actual damage your opponent can output at any given time, which is a very powerful thing you can do.
Yeah.
And then Flare Blitz is just there as kind of a very powerful fire type move. Gets stabbed, hits them hard. And then I think that the Terra type is pretty key. In terms of being able to switch into a water type to resist, the water moves that would be super effective against it, or neutralize its ground or rock resist. Again, just very powerful. A way to keep Arcanine alive and alive and alive for as long as it can.
Yeah. Iron Bundle. This is just a very offensive set. It has max special attack and speed, so it's gonna almost always be hitting first. I think this is the fastest Pokemon in our format. It has Focus Sash, so it can take at least 1 hit and survive. And then the rest of these are offensive moves. Icy Wind, we talked about earlier with Flutter Mane. It is a form of speed control, so Iron Bundle will always be going first. A lot of the time, he will use Icy Wind, and suddenly, since speed is, I don't know the word, since it comes to effect immediately, this might be the difference between your partner Pokemon next to Iron Bundle going immediately after, before your opponents. We have Golden Go here, which is a more bulky set. It's running Life Orb, which is another damage booster, but you'll lose some HP. It's running Nasty Plot, so you'll want to get him out, set up. Golden Go is so strong that you probably only need to get 1 Nasty Plot off to start one-shotting a lot of stuff. And then it has a Stab Shadow Ball and a Make It Rain, which is significant to Golden Go. It's busted. It's a 120 power attack that hits both of your opponents. It has the one downside of reducing your special attack, but you have Nasty Plot here to help counteract that. So he's just another big attacker.
Yeah, and its ability, Good as Gold, is, again, unique to it, kind of similar to Make It Rain. And it's just immune to all status moves that target it, which is even more obscene. Just a dumb Pokemon.
Yep.
Pokemon number 1,000 for the trivia buffs at home.
And here we're running Steel type. This is just to potentially get rid of your ghost weakness if they have a dark type out, but most of the time is just to boost the power of your Make It Rains, because instead of being a 1.5 times speed or attack, it will be doubled.
Yeah, you're really taking a 120 base power move, turning it into 240, multiplying that by 1.3 again with the life orb. And then if you have a nasty plot up, so like it's doing an obscene amount of damage. Like it is so strong.
Yeah, this Pokemon will sweep you if you are not careful against it.
I don't think my team has an answer to Golden Goble.
Oh hell yeah! Next we have Garganackle. He likes to gargle. That's kind of his thing. So he's on this team as another very supportive type Pokemon. He has leftovers, so he'll be restoring HP every turn. He has Purifying Salt, which it can't be statused, and it takes less damage from ghost types. So that's another nice defensive ability. And then in its stats, you can see it's all HP, special defense, and defense. Its moves here are Wide Guard, which we didn't talk about, but this is protect for spread moves. So if they had a Golden Go out, I could click Wide Guard, and now this Make It Rain is not affecting either of my Pokemon on my side of the field with Wide Guard. And Wide Guard does not fail on consecutive use unless it's being... Wait. No.
Yeah,
Wide Guard never will. But if you click Wide Guard and then Protect, I believe that has the consecutive problem. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Wide Guard can be used every single turn, will always protect you and your partner Pokemon completely from spread moves. It's got Recover here to restore some of its health if it gets low. And its one offensive move is Salt Cure, which is a very low power attack at 40, but it also has this secondary effect of dealing 1/8 of the opponent's max HP every turn. And this doesn't go away until they switch out. So this will just slowly keep chipping at them every turn. You get Salt Cure on your opponents, you start protecting up, you start recovering, and they just die while you sit here at full HP. And then the final Pokemon, we already went over this. This is the exact set that we pulled up earlier, but very supportive Pokemon: Clear Smog, Pollen Puff, Rage Powder, and Spore. So we can put things to sleep, we can redirect, we can heal up our teammates, and we can reset the stats on our opponents or very rarely our own Pokemon. Yeah, so you can see on this team it's got pretty much a clear split of half relatively supportive Pokemon in Arcanine, Garganackle, and Amoonguss, and half pretty offensive Pokemon in Iron Hands, Iron Bundle, and Golden Go. Your main star on this team is going to be Golden Go. He's got the most he's got the setup, so he's the Pokemon you want to protect a lot of the time. But Iron Bundle and Hands are both also going to be doing tons of damage. And Hands has Fake Out. He is only used as much as he is because of Fake Out. I'll say it.
That's a terrible take, but that's okay.
It's true. He also has Volt Switch here, so we talked about this move earlier, but it's a special attack, which you normally might be like, oh, we're all invested in attack, and its special attack we even took away from with the nature. But it's just the ability to be able to switch out with an offensive move is so good that we are still running Volt Switch. And Iron Hands is one of those Pokemon that is very slow, so you'll almost always be going last and be able to get your new Pokemon out unscathed. Alright. So, and I wanted to also mention, there's also in the offensive 3 Pokemon, there's a pretty big split between Hands is physical, Bundle and Golden Go are both special. So it's about half and half there. And then Arcanine is also, you could consider physical, but, so this is a very well-rounded team. This is kind of what you want to be aiming for a lot of the time. It's simple, it'll get you going.
This team, I would argue that it's on the slower end for VGC. I think usually you're going to see 2 support mons. This one has 3. And then Iron Hands, even in and of itself, is very slow and kind of used more to fake out and pivot around to get your other stuff in. So I would say this is more on the slower side than, especially what you'll see from my team. My team is much more. It's only got 2 support Pokemon. It's much more offensive. But yeah, it's a very easy way to build your team. Just split your physical attackers, split your supporters, and just make sure you have a little bit of everything. Just very balanced. Your villagers with 2 Z's.
Yeah. I might need to set that to be a format in order to fight you.
No, I can just hit custom game.
Okay.
Right.
Should I use Healy Trick Room?
No. Sinistra's illegal.
That's not right. It should be Untitled 2. Where's Untitled 2? Oh no. What is happening?
Is it Untitled 74? Did you not save it? Go back to the team builder.
Oh, it's called Lunar CDs. My bad.
Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, I should have been able to look and see that it was right there.
7 and 2 Swiss.
Turn off that timer.
Alright. Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god, it's so loud. Jump scare,
so,
gotcha.
So Elijah is queued into the game against the beautiful Dragon Tamer Claire. And I think the first thing you want to see off the bat with my team, you see a physical Arcanine, you see a physical Roaring Moon, and you see a physical King Gambit. King Gambit is the first one. We didn't talk about a lot of the mons on my team. I did my best here, folks. But King Gambit has an ability called Defiant. So if what that does is if my stats are ever lowered, it raises my attack by 2 stages. So if Elijah brings Arcanine into my King Gambit with its Intimidate, I will immediately be at +1 attack because I will lose 1 attack from the Intimidate and then go up 2. So automatically, Arcanine is a little neutralized, I would say. And then I think the next thing, at least what I would do, is like think through like, all right, what is he gonna bring against me? And that King Gambit is probably the only answer this team really has to Golden Go. I think Sandy Shocks, which is that last on that weird Pharaoh Electric man on legs, is okay in the Golden Go. But I would say King Gambit is kind of the way to make sure, just because we know it gets priority dark moves that are a kind of a way to shut down the ghost type that is Golden Go.
And
I think
we'll be doing open team sheets, so you won't have to know all of this information. You'll be able to look at your opponent's team and kind of decide this before we click start here. So yeah, well, I mean, what were you saying? So what might you be leading here? So I've got mostly my 2 of the 3 Pokemon that are the big attackers on this team. I have 2 special attackers, so it might be less likely for him to bring Arcanine or to lead Arcanine in that case.
Is this singles?
Oh,
that's on me, folks.
Classic John, get me out.
Doubles custom.
But another thing to consider is that Arcanine also has super effective damage into both Amoonguss and Golden Go on my side. So that is a bonus for him to bring it. So Sylveon is a big special attack spread move user, fairy type. So the only thing on our team that is super worried about that is going to be Hands, and he has an insane special defense stat, so he'll even be able to take
oh
a hit
my
or
god, you can't pick 4?
What? You can only pick 6?
6, yeah. I keep trying to pick my leads. I picked just my 1 lead, and it immediately tabbed me out. I was like, fuck. Let's try this for a 3rd time. Right, I guess we can just queue reg, like, see. We will not do best of 3. That seems excessive. Show all.
I can't wait for, because I'm recording this just through my mic and not like it doesn't get crisped. Yeah, see, this is what I was talking about. I have to. Oh wait.
Yeah, you have to show all teams, and then you can pick winner.
Will it allow me to? Nice.
All right, we done.
Yeah. Anyway, so what should I lead is the main question here. So I like Hands into this matchup. He's got Fake Out. He's got super effective damage into the King Gambit. He's got super effective damage into the Roaring Moon because he's a Dark type. He is very bulky. He'll be able to Fake Out. He can pivot. So pivoting also will reset any stat changes, so we can ignore the Arcanine's Intimidate. So Hands is a nice Pokemon for us to be bringing here. So
I think
what are
for
we?
you, Bundle is a really good lead for you. As you look at my team, my water resist is Roaring Moon, which is weak to ice. From Iron Bundle, obviously, and Iron Bundle doubles as most of your speed control on this team. So you can kind of go in, you're the fastest thing, unless I'm like booster speed on Roaring Moon or Choice Scarf on something. You kind of know Bundle is going to get that. Is Bundle Focus Ash? I don't remember.
Yes.
But yeah, you're basically guaranteed to get this Icy Wind off, kind of no matter what you do. Then from there, I think you need to bring out at least one, if not two, of your supporters. I think Arcanine, we talked about already, has an okay matchup. It kind of hits a lot of stuff hard with Flare Blitz, but it's kind of neutralized by my Arcanine, and that King Gambit, I think, could be a problem, and I'm obviously incentivized to bring it with Steel coverage into Garganacl plus Dark coverage into Golden Go. I think King Gambit is probably something you would expect me to bring.
Yeah.
So Arcanine might be one of the ones that we leave off here. Then it becomes, you'll get this Amoonguss. It's going to take 55, 60 from an Earth Power from Shocks. It's going to take super effective, probably 80%, unless it tears, from this Arcanine. You see the Mousehold. You can kind of assume that my Mousehold is probably more supportive. Like, I'm not doing any shenanigans here with the beat up strategies, and it just wouldn't make sense for it to be like Scarf or Tidy Up or anything like that. Like, I think you can kind of assume that this is like a Friend Guard mouse, so Amoonguss and they match up kind of okay. Roaring Moon, you can probably assume in this format it's mostly going to be an Acrobatics Terra Flying set that we talked about earlier.
Which also hurts Amoonguss a lot.
Sylveon Amoonguss probably walls unless it's Psyshock, which is just a psychic coverage move Sylveon sometimes runs. But I think in this format, a lot of times you're seeing a more sound-based moveset, so you're probably not going to have that Psyshock to worry about. And then Amoonguss or King Gambit, it's an okay matchup for an Amoonguss. It's nothing to write home about. So Amoonguss looks like, I would say Arcanine looks bad. Amoonguss looks okay to bad.
Yeah, it needs to be positioned well. It could be very bad in the wrong position.
I think Golden Go is probably something that you would want to bring. I know you have obviously the Terra Steel to kind of avoid the King Gambit shenanigan, but beyond that, like it murks Sylveon every time. Mm. It can punish a Roaring Moon if the Roaring Moon doesn't have Dark coverage, which, spoiler, I might not have. It beats the shit out of Mouse. And then, it has an okay matchup into Arcanine and probably a bad matchup into Sandy Shocks, but I still think it's probably worth bringing, because if you are able to position and get that nasty plot up, like you're going to get a kill and a half, probably, just with one Make It Rain, especially if you have Bundle next to it to slow my team down and help it outspeed. And then Garg is just solid. I don't really think...
Yeah. He's a good,
I think it's just a solid one. Yeah.
So
I don't have any spread moves other than Hyper Voice on Sylveon, you can assume by looking at this team. So Wide Guard's probably not the best.
What about Breaking Swipe? You're telling me you're not running?
I actually don't know this rolling moon, so I'd have to I'd have to look it back up.
All right. So we hop in. We immediately see we got intimidated. The booster energy was consumed by the Roaring Moon, so it boosted. Showdown tells you here underneath photosynthesis, it boosted the speed. So this Pokemon is going to be the fastest thing on the field, like guaranteed. I guess not guaranteed. It's extremely likely you wouldn't be running booster speed otherwise. So let's see. What do I want to do here? So I have my stats have been drained on my Iron Hands. It doesn't affect the bundle because he's a special attacker. So I might want to try to fake out here. That's what Hands is going to want to do a lot of the time. Or I could try to pivot out either manually or clicking Volt Switch. Or I could click Drain Punch or Wild Charge. Wild Charge will do a decent amount of damage into either of them, just because Hands is very strong. Drain Punch does have the super effective against Roaring Moon, but since I saw that booster energy get consumed, I might think, oh, maybe he'll be Terra Flying. So if he Terra Flying Acrobatics my Iron Hands, he's going to be in trouble. We have a defense of 128, which is solid, but still might just get one shot. I don't know the calcs. So since I'm afraid of the moon, I'm going to click Fake Out here and put it into Roaring Moon. That way I can see I'm not really afraid of the Arcanine from on either of my Pokemon. So I can see if he's going to Terra with his moon, or pretty much what the Arcanine's trying to do if that wants to pivot out again. And then with my bundle, I have the option to go offensive. I have super effective attacks into either of his Pokemon with Hydro Pump and Freeze Dry. I could lower their speed, which isn't super useful here with me already clicking Fake Out into Moon, or I could protect or switch. Here, I'm just gonna click Hydro Pump into Arcanine. Hope for the best. Try to get some damage off. Hydro Pump is a base 110 power move, so it's gonna be doing damage whether or not he switches. Or Terra's is gonna be doing a decent amount of damage to whatever might be coming in. So we see there the Fake Out went off on the moon. He got flinched. We got the Hydro Pump off. It connected, which was kind of lucky. And we did 38% damage to this King Gambit, which resists the Hydro Pump. So still a nice chunk there. So he didn't Terra his moon, which makes my Hands kind of afraid of that that Terra Flying Acrobatics. It's possible we take it. I kind of don't. No, we'd live that. So the decision.
You live that.
The decision here is: do we want? Yeah, it's not super effective because we're fighting electric, so the electric will resist the flying. So, what do we want to do here? He has Golden Go out, or not Golden Go. He has Kingambit out. So, neither of our Pokemon are super afraid of Kingambit. Kingambit could use Sucker Punch, which is a priority move that will hit me if my Pokemon are attacking. So I think I'm going to stay in with Iron Hands. I'm going to click Drain Punch, which is 4 times effective into Kingambit. It's likely that Kingambit will either protect or Terra or switch. We'll see what happens there with that. And then with the bundle, we want to be careful here because we do not want to click Icy Wind into Kingambit because that will boost his attack by 2. So the options here are either click Freeze Dry into Moon, Protect, or switch out. Since he's got the Kingambit out and he could be running a fighting type move on this that goes into bundle, I don't really want to switch into my Garganackle. It would be okay. My Garganackle would survive a low kick. But I kind of just want to keep him in. We've got Sash here. I'm not super worried about it. So I'm just going to click Freeze Dry into Roaring Moon. Let's see what happens. So yeah, he switched back out into the Arcanine. So now my Iron Hands is at half attack, so -2.
Oh my god, that did a ton. What the fuck?
Our,
-2?
our Drain Punch did 24% into Arcanine still. That's how strong Hands is. And we got Roaring Moon down to 18%. However, he did get Tailwind up, so now all of his Pokemon are likely going to outspeed. So my hand still isn't particularly scared, but since he is at -2 attack, he's going to want to switch out soon, because we don't want to be stuck on the field with -2 attack. So I could switch out manually, but because Hands is going to be the thing that goes last here, I'd rather click Volt Switch. Just try to get some chip damage onto anything. I'm going to put it into Arcanine because that is less likely to protect. If I did it into Roaring Moon and he protected, then I wouldn't get the switch out, which would suck. It's what we want here. So we're just going to put it into Arcanine, even though it won't do a lot of damage. And I'm just going to click Protect It Bundle. Try to see what he's going for here. So yeah, the Roaring Moon did go for Protect there. The Snarl, which we were protected from, would have dropped our special attack on Bundle. So we get the Volt Switch off into Arcanine. So now he's got Arcanine and Roaring Moon out. Roaring Moon won't be able to protect next turn, but he does have Tailwind up for another 3 turns. So I don't really want to bring out my Golden Go into his super fast snarling Arcanine, which likely has a fire attack as well. So I'm going to bring out Garganackle. So I now could consider clicking Wide Guard. If I think he's going to click Snarl again with Arcanine, that could be a reasonable choice. Protect my Bundle from having its Sash broken or its special attack lowered. But we haven't taken damage this game, except for what the fuck? Hands took
It took the Snarl last
right,
time.
the Snarl. Yeah. That was the first instance of damage that we've taken, so I'm not really worried about my Bundle here. So I'm just going to click Salt Cure. I'm going to put it into the Roaring Moon because I know it just protected, so it's either going to attack or switch out here, or it could try to protect again. It seems unlikely. And then I'm just going to click Hydro Pump into Arcanine. We saw it did like 30-some% to the Kingambit anyway, which is his best switch in here to it. Oh, no. Yeah, no, that is true. So I'm just going to click Hydro Pump into Arcanine. It might protect, but... Alright, so there goes the Acrobatics.
How has that one?
Oh, huge. So he doubled up into my Iron Bundle because he knew that I wouldn't be able to protect again, likely, with my Bundle. So he used Acrobatics and Flare Blitz, which is good to confirm that Arcanine has that. And then we got off our Hydro Pump, but it missed. So we're sitting here with 2%.
I want to talk about that turn from my perspective. So I was kind of in a situation with that Garganackle where I didn't really care if it killed my Roaring Moon. My Roaring Moon has kind of, I mean, Tailwind we've used a lot of the turns. I kind of like to have a little bit more out of it, but I didn't get more out of it. So in the words of Pusha T, so be it, so be it. So I think it's fine to lose Roaring Moon at that point. And the Garganackle, I know really probably all it can do is Salt Cure. Like maybe it's an Earthquake, maybe it's a Rock Slide set, but like he's not clicking Earthquake if it is, and it doesn't feel like it's Rock Slide on this team. So I was in a position where I knew both of my Mons outsped his Iron Bundle, and I could basically attempt to go for the kill before it got the Hydro Pump off. I assumed, and this is maybe if I knew the team more, I could have teared my Roaring Moon into flying to get the kill, confirmed on Iron Bundle, but I knew regardless it needed 2 attacks in order to die because it's at 2%, or because it was at 100% with its focus sash intact. Sadly, I did not pick up the kill, so that Hydro Pump that I never envisioned going off in the first place, I mean, it missed, unfortunately, the nature of using 80% moves. But that was really, the turn from my perspective is I want to kill Bundle, and I want something on my side to die so I can get Sandy Shocks in. Because Sandy Shocks is a ground type. It's also an electric type, so the ground type moves hit Garganacl super effectively, the electric type moves hit Bundle super effectively, and in case like he pivoted into Golden Go or whatever, like it's still, you know, a ground type that can answer that as well. So that was really the goal of that turn from my perspective, was to attempt to kill Iron Bundle and to attempt to lose Roaring Moon so I could get Sandy Shocks in for free.
Alright, so thinking through this turn here, so he's got his last turn of Tailwind, so it would be safe to just click Protect with both of my Pokemon, and then his Tailwind will be all used up, and the speeds will be back to normal. But with my bundle, it's probably only got one. I mean, it's at 2%. It's only got one attack left that it can take. So I'm thinking he might just try to go for the Snarl with Arcanine. He would lower my stats. He would get the kill on the bundle, and if I switched out with the bundle, he would lower the stats of anything coming in. So that seems fairly likely. So I could just protect with bundle. He's got the Kingambit in the back, which bundle isn't very good into. We don't have any damage into it with Freeze Dry or Hydro Pump, and if we click Icy Wind, that only boosts the Kingambit. So I think at this point, bundle has served its purpose, so we're probably... I think here, I'm going to try to protect the bundle, and then maybe next turn I can get one last Hydro Pump off into the Arcanine if it doesn't switch out. With the Garganacl, it's at risk here of being KO'd by the Sandy Shocks with its powerful ground-type attacks. It could also get doubled up into by Arcanine, or if I suspect he's going for Snarl to try to get that chip and lower our stats, it would take a little bit more there. Salt Cure is a physical type attack, not that it really matters, but so here I have the option of switching out or terrain. Unfortunately, the two Pokemon I could switch into are also both going to be very weak to that ground type attack from Sandy Shocks. So what do I do here? I could just click some Salt Cures, try to get some chip damage off. I could protect. If I do protect with both my Pokemon, then that leaves me very open next turn. It's possible it's better to just let Bundle die so that I can get the free switch in while keeping Garganacl safe. But I don't think Earth Power is going to kill me. So I'm just going to go for the Salt Cure onto Arcanine. Might get some damage. If it hits Arcanine, it'll do a pretty good amount, and it'll get that chip. If Arcanine switches, I'll get that chip started on the Kingambit and protect here with Bundle. So he just switched right into Kingambit and protected with the Arcanine. So I got nothing off that turn. However, his Tailwind is gone. So now I can safely use my Iron Bundle's last move. So that's going to be Hydro Pumping into Arcanine, who just protected. If he brings out the Shocks, it'll still do a decent amount of damage into it. So I'm not afraid of that. Salt Cure is another decent option here. I would be a little bit worried about switching in my Golden Go here into the Flare Blitz, but the odds that he clicks Flare Blitz into my Garganacl are probably pretty low. It also protects this slot if he clicks Sucker Punch, with his King Gambit, which he's probably clicking Sucker Punch into Bundle here. So Bundle won't get the move off anyway, but it'll be a free switch in. It's alright. Bundle's done his job. So since I am actually almost certainly getting the free switch in on Bundle, I'm just going to click Salt Cure here into the Arcanine again. It just protected, so I know I'm safe. And if I do, by some miracle, get the Hydro Pump off into Arcanine and kill it, the Salt Cure will go into the King Gambit instead, which is some nice chip damage. So yeah, he switched out into Strox, and he got the Sucker Punch off, which is that priority move, which instantly killed our Bundle.
I kind of want to, from Elijah's perspective right now, he, like, Arcanine, it's useful in terms of neutralizing hands, but with the Pokemon that he brought, my Arcanine is almost kind of useless at this point. Like, Will-O-Wisp stuff doesn't matter. Snarling stuff barely matters other than Golden Go, but why not click Flare Blitz into that? So what his worry is, are these two Mons in front of him, Sandy Shocks and King Gambit? I think with having both Golden Go and Gardenackle at full HP, he's kind of at a point where he needs to pick whether he's going to win this game through Gardenackle or he's going to win this game through Golden Go. And I think that comes down to having to kill just one of the two Mons in front of him, because with Garg having Terra Ghost, if you kill King Gambit, Sandy Shocks can't really kill Garg. If you kill the other one, Sandy Shocks, then you have kind of a Golden Go that can Terra into Steel, and more or less, with the help of Iron Hands, kind of neutralize this King Gambit completely. So that's kind of where I think he's at, from my perspective, in terms of I need to kill both Gardenackle and Golden Go, and if he can secure one kill on either of these two Mons, I will not win the game. Like, there will be a 0% chance I can win the game because I just can't break that wall, that defensive core that he has. So I think kind of that's the end game Elijah needs to be playing towards, is just confirm a kill on one of these two and then kind of use his Terra type to be able to effectively neutralize the other one. And then at that point, he should have really no issue winning the game at this point.
Alright, so I had him on die, so we know he's got his Arcanine at half HP in the back. Like John just said, he's got two scary guys out in front of me. So my thought process here is I could bring out Golden Go. It is relatively speedy. It's gonna outspeed the King Gambit. It is probably not. It's probably going to be slower than the Sandy Shocks. So the Sandy Shocks could easily get an Earth Power off into Golden Go, which is going to deal a lot of damage. King Gambit could Sucker Punch into the Golden Go, which also has priority, and we're a Ghost type, so that's going to deal a lot of damage. So I'm thinking I got Salt Cure off on Sandy Shocks. I could bring out Hands. It's going to be pretty okay into both of these. It could get Earth Powered by Sandy Shocks. I have that Terra Grass there. I have Drain Punch, which is 4 times effective into the King Gambit. And on the first turn it's out, I can click Fake Out to try and neutralize one of these two guys. So I'm going to start with bringing out Iron Hands here. So Gardenackle, looking at this turn, like John was talking about with the win cons, we can try to just slowly chip away at everything here. Sandy Shocks already has Salt Cure on it, so it's going to be taking 1/8. Yeah, 1/8 damage every turn. We can try to just sit here and live with our Gardenackle. We could even Terra into Ghost, which is risky if he were to click Sucker Punch. But I think that Golden Go at this point in time is as nice and offensive as it is. It's not going to do a ton of damage into anything on John's side of the field, because he's resisting it with King Gambit and Arcanine. He has Sandy Shocks out, which can do super effective damage into it. So I'm not that worried about losing Golden Go here. But also, I could just click Fake Out into Sandy Shocks to protect the switch. So I'm going to switch here into Golden Go. He might anticipate the Fake Out and just go for any move into either of my Pokemon with Gambit, assuming I'm going to do it into Shocks. I could also just click the Drain Punch here, which would be pretty nice. But I'm going to try to get fancy with it. And I'm going to click Terra Grass to prevent this Sandy Shocks from doing super effective damage into hands. And I'm just going to click Drain Punch into this King Gambit. This is a risky play. He could just protect, and Terra into Grass will make me weak to the Arcanine that I know is in the back. But if it works out, it could pay off a lot. So he does just hit that Earth Power. It almost one-shots my Golden Go. And then the Iron Head finishes it off. And we get that Drain Punch off into King Gambit. 4 times super effective. It's down. So he's going to be bringing out his half-health Arcanine. It's going to intimidate us, which is a little bit unfortunate. But I've got my Garganacl that's going to come back out. Now that he's down to 2 Pokemon, his Salt Cure can't go away. So I know that if I just survive for another 6 turns, if I do no other damage whatsoever, if I survive for 6 turns, the Sandy Shocks will die. So I am going to assume that the let's see. What do we got here? What are we cooking?
I've had my
kind of in a tough spot here now because he has the Arcanine out and I have my Grass hands. But if he's attacking with Arcanine into hands, that means he's not attacking into Garganacl. I think Garganacl can take at least 1 hit from Shocks, so I'm gonna just go ahead and try to get that Salt Cure off into Arcanine. And I am certainly going to be taking some damage this turn on hands. He might double up to try to get the kill. So I'm going to hope that I survive, and I'm going to click Drain Punch into the Arcanine, because he is the more dangerous of the 2 for my hands at this point. Because Sandy Shocks also is a special attacker, and you can see here in Showdown, I have an effective special attack or special defense of 133. It's very high, so I'm not too worried about him. So we're just gonna double up into Arcanine here and hope for the best.
Oh honey, no.
Oh my god! He's got the surprise Terra Bug Terra Blast on his Sandy Shocks. That's incredible. Holy shit.
Alright, so now Elijah's only play is pretty easy. It's just he's going to protect and recover until I die, and we're going to see if my Earth Power can kill the Garganacl.
There's no way you had the fucking Terra Bug Terra Blast. Oh, that's crazy. So, the only thing I will say about that incredible play that I just witnessed was we're doing open team sheets, so you won't get any huge surprises like that, but that's a fun thing you can do with Terra types. Terra Blast is a unique move where it is a normal type move until you Terra, and when you Terra, it will do the damage of your Terra type. So that's a good way to get a move of any type onto any Pokemon you want. It also is unique in the fact that it is a special move when you haven't Terra'd, but when you have Terra'd, it will use whichever of your stats is higher. So it'll use attack if that's higher, or special attack if that's higher. So yeah, we're just going to protect and recover here and try to stall out the game. So I need 2 more turns, so I just need to survive this turn with my Garganacl, and I know that I live. Or I know that I win. So,
Yeah,
that was only...
Just Earth Power protect, and he will win the game.
Yeah. So, now we survive that turn, protect again, and Sandy Shocks is down.
I know Elijah won anyways. I think preserving your Terra Ghost for Garg
Yeah.
was probably better. Like focusing down the King Gambit, because you were Assault Vest, and obviously I'm Life Orb Birth Power, which is going to do a chunk, but I don't think that's killing a
Oh
Assault
yeah.
Vest
No, it's
Iron Hands. So I think it was in your best interest to kind of and it didn't end up mattering, but preserving the Ghost Terror on guard kind of neutralized everything I had left. Because like, how much is Snarl doing to guard? Like nothing from
yeah.
Arcanine, and then it totally takes away, like, even an Earth Power crit wouldn't have killed him in the end game. So that would probably be the only thing that like I really have to contribute to the way that end game played out, which is kind of what I was trying to explain when I went on my spiel about win cons earlier. Is you had to pick which one you were going to win with. He picked Garg, and I think it just would have been more optimal to have the Ghost Terror type.
So that I didn't have any risk of losing the game there at the end. Oh, but it worked out. I'm a gamer. That's what you'll expect throughout the tournament. I'll fuck John up like that with my crazy moves that he never expects, and then get bug terrored. I think we covered pretty much everything we possibly could, and it is 8:30, and John has football and baseball to watch, so that's gonna be it. Thanks for coming to our 2-hour TED Talk, John. Thank you for helping me out here. I definitely would not have done a good job explaining it on my own, so I'm glad you had the time. Justin, if you don't watch and love this video, I will destroy you, by the way. So you better get this far or you're done. You're fired.
It better be Justin.
Anyway, hopefully that is helpful. Goodbye.
Bye.